Welcome to episode 18 of Mental Mastery, where I interview the world's greatest minds and what it takes to live an epic life. I'm your host, Max Weigand, and today I'm joined by the CEO of Intelligent Motivation Inc., Dr. Bill Sciacca. In addition to a PhD in business administration, Bill has spent over 30 years as a professor at several universities and has decades of experience in sales and leadership training. He has also built successful businesses in multiple industries and now teaches leadership, motivation, and goal setting to anyone who wants to improve their lives. So, Bill, welcome to the show.
Max, thank you very much. I feel honored and humbled to be here.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I'm really excited for this. And so the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is actually, I'm just going to call it language of leadership, because, usually when I reach out to potential guests, everyone's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. But when I reach out to you, your first message was like, this is going to be great. I can't wait to chat with you. You immediately raised the bar of kind of the energy and positivity that is in a room or that's in any conversation. So is that something that you've developed over time?
Good question, Max. You know what? I heard a long time ago that everybody brightens up a room. Some when they come into it, some when they leave it. I want to make sure I was the former.
I love that.
So yes, I work very hard on presenting positive attitudes. Frankly, it revolves around the vision of what I do. I am this is not a job to me. This is a vocation. I do my best to take whatever I learned and unwind it so that young minds can have less of a hardship in understanding the processes that I have all these scars for.
Wow, I love that. I love the way you're putting that. And so does that just come from like having this incredible vision, and that's what gets you excited in the morning? That's why you treat people like that? Or how do you cultivate that for like people listening right now? How do you cultivate this engagement and excitement and really embody and live that?
That's a good question. And let me put it to you this way. It's a choice. Attitude is a choice. You know what, Max? We don't have a lot of control over a lot of things in our life. We think we do. But the fact of the matter is that a jet engine right now could fall off a plane and squash you or I. We have no control over that. We have no control over the weather. We have no control over whether there's death rays from Mars attacking us right now. But let me tell you one thing that we have complete and total control over. It's our attitude. As a matter of fact, we have control over two things, our attitude and our actions. But if you think about it, our actions come from our attitude. So attitude is everything. Now, if you believe that, if you agree with me on that, let's dive into what is an attitude. An attitude is a habit. Our attitudes are habits of thought. And the same way that we develop attitudes to wake up and run in the morning as a positive attitude, or to smoke cigarettes as a negative habit, whatever habits we develop, we can develop our attitude using that same methodology that we develop any habits for. I choose to have a positive attitude. I choose it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every single day I feel jovial and energetic and I just want to basically wake up and dance. I choose to do that.
Wow, I love that, especially the element of choice. And that's something I think that if people once people realize that like happiness and this excitement is a daily choice, that no matter what happens on the outside in your life, you can always choose a more positive attitude. I love that. I think that's so powerful.
Absolutely. And you know what? There are so many things that go into attitude development. Like, for example, as soon as you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you do? I don't know about you. I put a smile on my face. Smiles are a great way to jumpstart the day. But I know so many individuals in my coaching and my consultancies that will set the alarm and then say, oh, no, and then snooze it. The first thing you do right there by doing that is you are telling your subconscious mind that I want to avoid the day. So what I tell individuals, you want to start developing a better attitude, here's two things you could do. Number one, set the alarm for when you want to wake up, and then get up at that time. And number two, as soon as you wake up, smile.
Oh, for sure. Love that. Especially just coming in with like a positive attitude. And there's also, many other habits, right, that kind of go into that, whether it's developing some kind of morning routine of like meditating or working out or reading, but just starting the morning on your own terms rather than just reacting to the alarm clock, first of all, and just kind of hitting the snooze button 5 times. That's what most people do, right? And that's, I think, what gets them started in such a negative way. And so I love what he's saying here. Just wake up and choose to put a smile on your face.
Yeah, and you know what? If you can't wake up at 5:30 and you keep snoozing the alarm till 6, wake up at 6. Now, if you say you want to get up earlier than that, no problem. Next week, set a goal to get up at 5:55. The week after, 5:50. The week after that, 5:45. And build your way into it. Just ease yourself into it. But don't wake up and say, oh, no, I'm so tired. I call this a negative environmental scan or an adversity scan. When you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is you say, what's wrong? And now you're building your day around what's incorrect. I had a grandmother that was like that. When I said to her, hey, Grandma, how you doing today? She'd say, today it's worse than usual. And you know what? I don't buy that. I don't buy that.
If that happens every day, then there's a problem there.
You got to wake up with and have a positive environmental scan. Okay, so it's like saying, oh, I woke up this morning and my neck is stiff. Hey, wait a minute. You know what? The rest of me is soft and supple and I'm ready for action. So it's a choice, and attitude is a choice. Just like any habit that we develop is a choice, we need to develop positive attitudes, and we can.
So do you have any other morning rituals or routines or habits that you use in the morning to really get yourself excited for a day? I mean, I know you mentioned smiling and also focusing just on what's positive. Anything else?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I will tell you, one of the first things I do is I wake up at 4 a.m.
Wow.
Now, yeah, I don't mind that. I'm going to start getting up earlier than that. I understand Tim Cook from Apple gets up at 3:45, so I have a goal to beat him. I'm going to get up at 3:30 eventually. But yeah, the first thing I do after taking care of, brushing your teeth and splashing water on your face and all that other stuff is I have to focus the day. Now, I am a relative traditionalist when it comes to this. I was born and raised Roman Catholic. I still am Roman Catholic. And so and over the last 2,100 years, Roman Catholicism has come up with a few prayers. So I try to say a few of them. And I have a very, very set routine of about 30 minutes or so of traditional prayers. I'm reading from a book, and I do that purposely. It jumpstarts my day. It shows that I have a level of gratitude. Excuse me. And it's just a tremendous way for me to get the mental juices flowing. After that, I go through several guided meditations. These are actual meditation. I've been meditating since I was 19 years old. A priest at the Roman Catholic college that I went to was doing research on bringing together Eastern and Western religions, and he taught me how to meditate. Now, I've been off and on meditation for a long time, but since I've moved here to Costa Rica, I've been doing it constantly because Costa Rica is kind of like a mecca for things like this. It's a great way to spur your creativity. So the next thing I do is about a half an hour of solid, intense meditation. And by solid and intense, what I mean is I just simply sit there in silence. I observe my thoughts, and I try to put some separation between my thoughts. Then I fill that space with positiveness. That's how I start my day.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah, after that, I normally hit the beach. I try to spend a good half hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour on one. I'm somewhere between a dozen different beaches. So I try to get to a beach every morning just to dip my toes in the water and splash around a little bit. Matter of fact, if you'll notice on one of my bios, I think it's on Addicted to Success, I write for that particular website. I put down that I divide my time between my international clients, writing my next book, and wandering aimlessly on the beach.
that sounds like a good life.
Yeah, it's a good life.
Wow, for sure. So I'm really curious about that morning habit because first of all, that's incredible that you're waking up 4 a.m. every morning. Like, how did you get into that? Or like, first of all, when do you go to bed then? Like, how many hours of sleep do you get then?
Sometimes if I have to go to bed around 9 or so, I do, but I try my best to stay up till around 10. 6 hours of sleep, as long as it's good, solid, restful sleep, I find is enough for me.
Wow.
What I find is that during periods of my life when I was depressed, when I lacked self-motivation, when I wanted to escape, I needed 10, 11, 12 hours of sleep. But that was escapism. Now I'm not trying to escape life. I'm trying to embrace it. Frankly, I'm kind of upset that I have to sleep at all. I wish I could just stay up and just keep doing more stuff.
Wow, that's incredible. And it really speaks to that vision that you have of just bringing positivity to the world, that like you get so excited every day. You don't want to sleep. I love that.
Yeah.
Or I get worried.
So that's basically how I start my day. By the time I get home from the beach, it's around 8 a.m. or so. And between 8 and 9, I get ready and I sit down. Now, I don't want you to think I'm a workaholic. I'm really not. By about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm done. But I will tell you that between 9 and 3, minus an hour for a swim in the pool, I'm putting about 5 solid, intense hours of work in. And frankly, an hour of intense work, in my mind, is worth more than 2 or 3 hours of kind of fluffy work. So I'm intense, I'm focused, I get done what I need to do. And that's how I spend my day.
So let's dive a little deeper in that intense work, like you mentioned, because I know you've done so many incredible things. I mean, you've been a professor, at the same time built multiple successful businesses. You've gotten so much done, and even now you're doing so many amazing things. So how are you so productive if still you've working in quote unquote so little time compared to many other people?
Well, before I end my day between 3 and 4 o'clock, I have my next day planned. And I've come up with a new kind of time management philosophy. I mean, I've taught time management for probably before you were born. It used to be the A1 and A2 and A3 and so forth. Now I divide my activities into 2 broad areas: core activities and then non-core activities. So in my calendar, I know the audience isn't going to be able to see it, but I could show you. I have core and then non-core activities.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then what I do is concentrate on those core activities. And normally what I do is I functionally decompose larger goals. So for example, here's an example. Right now I'm working on a new program that I'm going to get out to the world called The Dynamics of Personal Leadership. It's going to be 14 lessons, and right now I work each day. One day I develop a lesson. The next day I develop the PowerPoints for that lesson. So basically in the span of 28 workdays, I'm going to finish 14 lessons, a written lesson and a PowerPoint. The next thing I'm going to do after that is record the lessons. Then I'm going to start advertising this program.
Wow, so just kind of take it step by step. So what is the advantage? Is it just that you're so deeply like into that project that you're like not distracted by kind of jumping around? Why is that so beneficial?
Well, I will tell you this. It goes back to an old riddle that I heard years ago. How do you eat an elephant?
One piece at a time.
One bite at a time. You got it. And that's how you break up big goals. You break up big goals by decomposing them into smaller goals. I like to call it functional decomposition. That's what I call it, and that's what I do. I'll take a big goal and I'll break it up into smaller goals. But I go beyond that, Max, and I think this is an important point for your listeners. Not only do you need to break up the goals, you need to take the next segment and post it in your calendar so that when you open up your calendar the next day, there's the action step.
Wow, so schedule exactly.
Exactly.
What else you want to do, yeah.
Yeah, Max, you schedule the next step. And as you continue that process, you're finishing a million different things. Now, I will tell you, right now I am working on 3 separate programs and a book.
Wow.
A half hour, 45 minutes a day on each of those projects. Guess what? They're getting done. Then I take another hour or so to talk to people about, like, nice people like you, okay, and nice people like clients that like to write checks to me, and so forth.
I love that. There's such an interesting way of kind of scheduling your thing, because I think most people just kind of react to whatever's happening on the outside and like whatever people kind of throw them, all the urgent stuff. So I love what he's saying here about really chunking it down, kind of like the decomposition, right? And then also
Yes.
scheduling it in your calendar is so powerful, because then like once it's on your calendar, people actually follow through, right? Like it's the same I found for like workouts, for example. If I schedule my workout, if I say 6 p.m. tonight I'm running, then it's going to happen. But if I don't schedule it there, then there might be other things coming up. There's dinners with friends, there's all of that stuff coming up, right? So scheduling it is so powerful. Love that.
I had a professor at Penn State ask me about 5 years ago. I published a book on goal setting. And he said, Bill, where did you ever find the time to write a book? And I said to him, I didn't find the time. I scheduled it. And I think that's the important thing. That's what we have to do, schedule things that are important to us.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, by definition, it also means that you're eliminating other tasks, right? Because we all have like these 24 hours in a day. So how do you go about deciding like what is a good opportunity for me and what is something that I need to eliminate from my life?
Well, good point. I will tell you this before I get into that question. If you don't schedule activities that are important to you, you will begin to do activities that are important to other people. So you are either going to be the master in your goals program or a tool in somebody else's goals program. I choose to be the master.
That's very well said.
So in answer to your question, I don't know what excites you. That I do things that excite me, and that's what gets me going. I love being able to take younger people like yourselves and say something and see the eyes get wide. Okay, in other words, the wheels are turning, the switch went on, the light bulb is bright. That's what I like. I mean, I've been teaching college since 1982. Most of it was part-time, but I noticed immediately when I said something and eyes got bright, that meant something to me. That was my ding in the universe.
Wow, that is amazing. Love that. Especially, I mean, it comes back to kind of having that vision of your life of like, I want to bring that positivity into the world. So it's really amazing. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about provocative leadership. What is that about?
It happened because I wrote a couple of books on goal setting. And the books on goal setting were, they're parables. The first book is called Goals Book. And it's a parable about a young man who was taken under the wing by his CEO, and the young man goes to various friends of the CEO to learn about goal setting. So it's a story. It went over pretty well, so I wrote a sequel to Goals Book that I very originally called Goals Book 2. And they were stories. They were short. They were stories. They were to the point. But I wanted to write a book really flexing the reader's mentality on leadership. Provocative leadership, when it publishes, is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 500 pages. And it is a philosophical treatise on leadership. It invokes philosophy, it invokes literature, and it really is a deep dive into leadership. So it was a fairly powerful work to put together, but I decided to unwind it because it's going to be a difficult read. So what I did is I put it together in the form of a training course. Now, Max, here's the thing. I put it together. I put a 3-day course together. And it was a solid 3-day course on provocative leadership. But I gave the material to a couple CEOs that I know, and they said, Bill, something's missing from it. It doesn't have the sexiness that you normally put into your training. It doesn't have that component to it. So I said, wait a minute. I've been to Costa Rica a lot. What if I offered the training Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, we went out into the rainforest. We went to an organic coffee farm. We talked to business people in Costa Rica about how they run a business.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, that was it. So now Monday, Wednesday, Friday is classroom training. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday is going over rainforest from hanging bridges or going to a coffee plantation. And the owners of these businesses are dying to talk to my participants about how they do it. So that is how provocative leadership came together. And I was flying back and forth from northeastern Pennsylvania in the winter. I was coming to Costa Rica. Then I was going back to sub-zero temperatures. And I thought to myself, what the hell's wrong with me?
Yeah,
So I
might
said,
as
why
well
don't I just move to Costa Rica? That's what I did.
That is such a great idea, really. Like how that business idea was born, and how you moved to Costa Rica. But tell me, like, what are some leadership principles that you try to instill in people during those seminars?
That's a very good question. One of them I call change architecture. You need to be the architect of change. If you are a leader or you are a manager in a business, and that's what this book is designed for. It's designed for individuals that have at least aspired to the level of supervision or above. You have responsibility for a certain department. You need to be the architect of change in that department. And by that, I mean, you need to look at the vision of the organization. The vision of your organization implies direction. This is the direction that our business is going in. What you need to do is develop congruency between your people's daily actions and that vision. Because the more congruent the daily actions are to the vision, that determines speed. That determines velocity. Vision is direction. Congruency to that vision in terms of daily actions, that's momentum. That's one of the things we teach.
Awesome. Love that. So what are some practical steps that you give to leaders that, like, what can they do specifically to really kind of bring that coherence into their business?
Excellent question. Some of them are so simple. Like, for example, consistency in your behavior. Do your people see you as being consistent every day? Or some mornings when you come in, are you having a bit of a fit? And other mornings you're happy. Do your employees have to say, hey, I have to go talk to Max. What kind of a mood is he in today? Yeah. To me, that's the kiss of death. And you know what, Max? As a manager, as a leader, you walk into that office. Every day you're on stage. You are on stage. This is not a dress rehearsal. You're on Broadway. This is not a scrimmage. You're in the Super Bowl. So you better act with that level of consistency that a professional should be acting with.
Well, I love that, especially the part about kind of being the role model, right? Because every day those people are looking up to you. And from my own experience, all the great leaders that I had in my life, they were the people that would actually, stand on the sidelines and pick up the trash off the floor in the office, right? Or on the playground, right? And track, like, they would pick up literally the trash that was lying on the floor because they wanted to embody this ideal of just being this hardworking person. So I love what he's saying here about just being a role model. And that's how you inspire other people to become better themselves, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we do it naturally as parents, but for some reason there's a disconnect when we get into the workplace, and we think it's okay that if we get stuck in traffic and we get to work 10 minutes late, that because we're the manager of that department, we can throw a fit and say, I can't believe the Department of Transportation hires such idiots. What we've done there is we have given our employees carte blanche to come in late and give excuses. We need to show consistency. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's something that has to be done, even if you don't feel like it. And that's the definition of a professional that I heard years back. A professional is somebody who does the best of their ability, even when they don't feel like it.
Oh, for sure. Just always follow through, even no matter what happens on the outside. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of being that rock. I love that. So Bill, I'm really curious. So you own multiple successful businesses throughout your career. Which one has
several
been
failures?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely want to talk about that later too. But some of these things can include like a donut, ice cream stores. Which one has been the most fun to you so far?
What I'm doing right now, my friend.
Yeah.
I have been doing this for 25 years, mostly full-time, but I took a part-time hiatus on this when I took a full-time professorship. But this is what I love to do. I just adore it.
Awesome. I can feel that energy that you have from just doing this. So I love that.
Good.
Excellent. So you already mentioned failure. I was going to get into it later, but on this show, I like to celebrate failures because I think they're oftentimes a stepping stone. So do you have a favorite failure in your life? Anything that actually helped you get better afterwards?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I did not care for my time in the donut business. And I have a couple of reasons. First of all, I like to maintain a fairly strong level of health. And I found people coming in at 2:00 in the 2:00 in the afternoon for an afternoon snack of 6 donuts and this gigantic milkshake. And I thought, I am contributing to the diabetic epidemic of the United States and of the world in general. So I didn't like it. Also, I had a partner relationship in that business, and I didn't really fulfill the relationship as much as I should have. I let the partners in the business take advantage of the business relationship instead of me standing up and saying, stop, this is my job, not your job. You go do what you have to do. I have to do what I have to do. And the end result of it, Max, is that, one day everybody was gone except me, and a couple $100,000 was gone. And I lost $1.2 million in real estate and equity. And it caused the disintegration of my family. And it was a gigantic problem at the time. But that $1.2 million was the best tuition that I ever paid, because from that, I was able to write books. I was able to develop a gigantic stream of mentality that I never would have gotten had I remained fat, dumb, and happy in the donut business. So ultimately, Wayne Dyer was correct. It's all perfect. There are no errors. What we have to do as individuals is embrace what's happening, see what's happening, and find the good in it. Every single thing that happens to us, this goes back to attitude. We have a choice. We can tag it as good, or we can tag it as bad. I have known motivational speakers that became motivational speakers after they had a leg amputated. Otherwise, it never would have happened. You can tag it as good. You can tag it as bad. It's your choice. Individuals have won lotteries for millions of dollars, and they've gone bankrupt. These are individuals that were normal working Joes just like you and I. They won millions of dollars, and a couple years later, they're bankrupt. You tag it as good. You tag it as bad. I choose to tag everything that happens in my life as good. Everything. There are no mistakes. This requires some effort. One of the big things that you have to understand if you want to tag everything as good is that you cannot have any justified resentment. That means you have to be able to forgive everybody for every indiscretion that you think has happened to you, because they aren't indiscretions unless you tag it as such.
Wow, that is so powerful. So what did that process look like for you when obviously the business is down? You must have been devastated at first, right? So how long did it take you to really, and what did you do to kind of get back up and gain that confidence again, right? Because after such a huge loss, I assume like your confidence was down. You just weren't feeling good about it anymore. So how did you build up the confidence again to go back into business, to do things, keep doing things, and stay positive?
Well, it took me 6 months to get out from underneath my desk. I was hiding there. Ultimately, what happened was I went to the bank and I pulled out a 5-figure sum of money to make my last payroll. I paid the payroll out of my own personal savings, and I was broke after that. And I knew I needed to do something. Fortunately, I had a house. My grandparents left me a house that unfortunately was in foreclosure and that I eventually lost because it was wrapped up in the businesses. But I had about a 7-8 month period where I was able to live in that house. And that's when I applied to Penn State for a full-time position, and they needed it. It's funny how things happen. They had a professor of economics. They had no retirement age, mandatory retirement age. I think this gentleman was somewhere in his early 80s. And halfway through the semester, I guess he figured out that it was time for him to die. And he died. And the end result was they had nobody to teach half a semester of 4 courses in economics. I was there. I had nothing to do.
Yeah.
So I said, put me in, coach. I'll do it. So I did. And then I did the next semester full time. And by that time, they needed a full time person. And there I was. So that's how I got back up and starting to rock and roll again. Ultimately, failure only occurs not when you fall down, but when you decide not to get up. That's when failure occurs. You could knock me down 12 times. If I get up the 13th time, I'm a success.
That is true. That is true. And I think every successful person that has ever made anything grand in their lives, they've gotten knocked down, right? They've had those moments of failure and despair and all of this adversity, right? But the thing that the kind of underlying thread between all of those things is they always get back up. They always get back into the game. And that's really what you did and why you're doing what you love nowadays. So that's really amazing story.
But Max, ultimately, what's the choice? What are you going to do? What do you do with yourself? I was at a circus once, and I saw the a high wire act. He fell. Now there was a net underneath him. He landed on the net. You know what he did after that? He got back up and went on the high wire. He didn't stay on the net and said, "That's it. I fell. This is too tough for me. I'm staying right here. Just roll me up. I'm not going anywhere." You have to get up.
No, this is always what I like to say. Like when people ask, like, why are you so positive? It's like, what other choice do you have? I mean, are you going to be negative and just pessimistic throughout your whole life? Like, I think that is the only choice you have, right? Because we only have this one life, so why not just make the most out of it and really use every opportunity?
Absolutely. I mean, failure. If something bad happens to you, you can let it define you. As you can let it crush you, or you can let it define you. I choose to let anything that is perceived as negative define me, and I think you do the same thing. I could tell already that I can't wait to follow your career.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, really just at the start, but really excited for it. Awesome. So let's talk about goal setting. I mean, you touched upon the goals book before, embracing personal responsibility in an age of entitlement. So what do you mean by that?
I think that, at least in America, people are starting to feel very entitled to things that the federal government has to offer them. Food stamps, welfare, things to that effect. And I'm not going to suggest that the social safety net is incorrect and that it shouldn't be there. What I am suggesting is that what we need to do, if we're down on our luck and we need the boost from that social safety net, that what we should do is capitalize on it. That what we should do is be able to set goals for ourselves after we've had this assistance and this help, and then start moving forward and developing the kind of life that we want. The social safety net was not meant to be a career. It was meant to help you. And when I say embracing personal responsibility in an age of entitlement, personal responsibility, I can give you a synonym for personal responsibility in 2 words. I am. It's me. It's all about me. I will assume responsibility for my life. Who's in charge of my life? I am, not the government. Who's in charge of my finances? I am. And the end result is that if I need a hand, I appreciate the fact that you're going to give me a hand, but you're only going to give me a hand. After that, I'm going to get up and I'm going to start kicking some butt, because that's what has to occur.
Yeah, I think this concept applies to so many areas of our lives, right? Because we all have these excuses of I'm just, big bone, like I just don't have the genetics or the talent or whatever. But stepping up for yourself and saying like I am ready to tackle this challenge, I think is so powerful. So definitely taking that responsibility for any area of your life, anything that isn't going well, decide that like I'm in charge of this, right? Because before you decide that, you're never going to actually change anything about it.
Absolutely. It's a choice. Isn't that what we're talking about? It's a choice.
Yeah. For sure. So I'm really curious, what are some key principles about goal setting that you think people in general get wrong most of the time? What's some bad advice out there that you see?
Well, I think too many times goal setting is viewed as kind of an external motivation, a rah-rah kind of thing. It's not. Goal setting is really an internal behavior modification tool. There are many ways to modify your behavior. I could do it with a cattle prod, although that might be a little painful. Goal setting is a great behavior modification tool. You set a goal and you become successful at the beginning of the goal setting process, because what you've done is you've modified your behavior to begin to move toward the goal. So one of the first things I would say to you in terms of goal setting is that you embrace the success as soon as you start moving toward the goal, because it's not what you get from the goal. It's how you change because you set the goal. That's important.
Oh, I love that. And one thing I want to stress here is really the process that's making things happen, right? Because oftentimes we set these goals, but then we don't really do anything about them. We just have this kind of la la land goal in front of us. But it's really the process, like daily workouts or study sessions or whatever it is, right? That is the process that is improving our life. So focusing on that and like the daily thing rather than this big goal that oftentimes seems like so scary, I think is very powerful.
Yeah, goal setting is a process. It's not an event. You don't all of a sudden become successful, Max. You don't all of a sudden become anything. Okay, divorce doesn't happen overnight. It comes from many years of jousting. A heart attack doesn't happen overnight. It comes from eating 20 pounds of deep fried chicken wings every Saturday night for 20 years. Okay, there's no such thing as all of a sudden. You don't all of a sudden become successful. If on Monday morning you wake up and you are a rotten, mean SOB, and Monday night you win the lottery, Tuesday morning you are a rotten, mean, rich SOB. But it doesn't mean you've changed.
That is such a great way of putting it. That's true. It's really this daily process, right, of just working on yourself and developing those skills and those attitudes towards life. It's not like in a day your life isn't going to change. Like it takes time, right? And I think that's what many people don't want to accept, that like it takes time to get better at things. It takes time to achieve your goals. It's not going to happen like next week, right?
Well, I mean, think about it. If you want to set a goal for a positive change, so right now you're in a negative place. How long did it take you to get there?
Your whole life, right?
Like, yeah. So you've got to set the time. You know, you didn't put that 30 pounds on a weekend. Don't expect to take it off in a weekend.
So one thing people struggle with universally is confidence, and you seem to have a lot of that. So how do you go about building confidence in yourself?
That's an excellent question. How do you start building confidence? Have you ever heard the old saying, fake it till you make it?
Oh, for sure.
If you want to wait and act confident how do I, let me see if I could unwind this. People say that I'm going to act confident when I feel it. That means that you are expecting external circumstances to change. Then you're going to feel confident and you're going to act it. I suggest you reverse that. I suggest you start to act confident, even if you don't feel it. And by that very action, you will begin to feel it. And I got that in the form of a little saying. It is better and more productive for us to act our way into a new set of feelings than it is for us to feel our way into a new set of actions. Act it and you'll begin to feel it.
Wow, I love that saying. Wow, that is literally amazing. And so powerful, right? Because I mean, if you think about it, like confidence comes from actually being good at something. And I think that's what most people like don't get. Like, it's like you have to first of all like decide that you're gonna feel confident, that you're going to put yourself out there, because otherwise you're never gonna take the steps, right? Like if you want to run a marathon but you've never run before, like you're not just suddenly gonna feel like it, right? Like you have to put yourself in that mental state first of seeing it and believing that you can do it, that you at least can take the first step. And once you believe that and you feel it without even any evidence there like being there on the outside, once you believe that, that's when you're gonna take action.
Absolutely. And it's not just running the marathon. You got to feel it. You've got to act every morning to wake up and get out there and start running.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I'm really interested. You founded Intelligent Motivation Inc., your current company. What's the story behind that name?
Well, over the past 25 years, I had a lot of different names for the company. It was called Leadership Dynamics Group, then Learning Dynamics. But I rebranded it about 8 years ago. And I like the term Intelligent Motivation Inc. I do keynotes, and keynotes are normally motivational. The problem that I found with a lot of motivational I hate to say speakers because they're my colleagues, but the problem that I found with a lot of motivational messages is that underneath the tinsel, there isn't a lot of tree. I like the term Intelligent Motivation Inc. because everything I do is based on academic research. Everything I do is based on the fact that this is coming from individuals that are much smarter than me. All I'm doing is hopping on their shoulders. I'm unwinding the ideas and making the ideas palatable and behaviorally adaptable for individuals that can't take the time or don't want to take the time to read through the theory. It's intelligent, but it's motivational.
Oh, I love that. You know, the other day I was talking to Dr. Oren Davis. He was the first person to receive a PhD in positive psychology. And he gave this amazing TED talk on helping yourself to self-help. And what he said was that so many times there's like all this information out there, right? But oftentimes, first of all, it's not very scientific. And then secondly, people don't know how to apply it to their own lives, right? Because there's all of this information out there and oftentimes contradicting, like, different viewpoints and stuff. So really making it specific to you. And I love what you're saying here about really getting the science and then giving people those actionable steps they can actually take to really improve their lives.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how to apply an idea, but what I could do is make the idea palatable so you could understand it quickly. Now it's up to you. It's motivational, but it's got underlying intelligence behind it. Thus the name.
Yeah, love that. So Bill, you once shared this very powerful story of how you spent 4 years in prison. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I got a lot of traction on that on LinkedIn.
Oh, I love that one.
I learned a lot about leadership skills in prison. And you know, it took some people time thinking, boy, he was in prison? No, I wasn't. What happened was a local institution of higher learning contracted me to teach economics and management in a federal state prison. And I was going up there a couple nights a week, actually teaching the inmates how to basically be better managers. It was kind of strange, Max, because ultimately they were in prison for life. No possibility of parole. So what happened was I was put into a classroom. The door was locked behind me. And there I was with basically 30 individuals who were in jail for murder.
Wow,
and
that must be scary.
Here I am in front. It taught me classroom management techniques.
Wow.
But I learned a lot from those individuals, how to be resilient, how not to lose hope, how one mistake doesn't change the fact that you're still a human being. And I developed a kinship and a friendship with a lot of them, and it was a positive experience overall.
Oh, that's so interesting. So how did those people, like, how were they able to stay positive despite knowing, like, hey, I might never get out of here again? How were they still able to find a purpose and stay positive in that situation?
I had conversations with a lot of inmates about that. And here was my question when they say, how am I supposed to be positive? I said to them, what's your choice? Yeah. All right. So here's your choice. You could be negative and you can be miserable and you can not try to make any type of worthwhile contributions, or you can be positive and you can develop yourself and you can help develop other prisoners.
Wow. So really make the most out of every situation that you're in.
Listen, they understood they made a bad choice somewhere along the line, and they're paying for that choice. Many of them are paying the ultimate. They're paying the ultimate price. No freedom for the rest of their life. But the point is that that's where you are right now, and now you have to decide: am I going to feel sorry for myself, or am I going to decide that what I did was incorrect? I can't take that back. No regrets. I can't take it back. But what I can do is move forward and live a kind of life that I have based in here. If they could take it back, believe me, Max, so many of them said, the only regret that I have in my life is the fact that I did this.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wow. That is powerful. So Bill, I'm really curious, if you could meet anyone from history, whether living or dead, who would it be and what would you say to them?
That's an interesting question. I would say that if I had a choice to meet anybody in history, it'd have to be Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a real cool guy. First of all, I loved his hair. Uh,
That's true.
yeah, I mean, I know the viewers can't see this, but this was me 5 years ago.
Oh, wow. You're getting that hairstyle.
Yeah, if I had the beard and took the shades off, maybe I would have been Jesus's twin. I don't know for sure.
Wow.
But anyway, the fact is that I would have liked to meet him. There are certain stories that were told of him in the Bible that I really like. Like, for example, when he said, "Show me the coin. Whose face is on that? Give to Caesar what is Caesar's. Give to God what is God." And what that taught me was perspective. Do what you need to do every day. Move your agendas forward. There's a lot of leadership sense to what Jesus talked about. So he's the person I would have liked to meet.
Wow, I love that. Bill, over the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, habit would you say has improved your life the most?
Over the last 5 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that over the last 5 years, it is not accepting any kind of personal excuses. Max, for about 2 years, I was on a training run where I would get on a plane Sunday night, and I would be in one city on Monday, another city on Tuesday, another on Wednesday, another on Thursday, another on Friday, then Friday night take a plane home. And I have to tell you, by the end of the week, I would plop into my bed like an old war horse. I was exhausted. And so many times I could have said to myself, I'm tired. I should take a week off. I shouldn't do this. No. People are expecting me. People want to hear this. That's why they're signing up for these classes. So let's do it. No excuses.
Wow, I love that. So how did you develop that in yourself? Like, is it like a daily mantra that you tell yourself, like, hey, no excuses? Or how do you make sure that when those excuses naturally pop up, that you are able to make that right choice right in that moment?
Well, I think a lot of it is awareness. You have to be able to say to yourself, I'm falling into a victim mentality. Stop, reset. You're not a victim. You're a champion. People are expecting you to be better. People are relying on you. Now stop whining. Get your ass up. Get moving.
Love that. So Bill, before I ask my final question, where can listeners connect with you online?
My website is intelligentmotivationinc.com. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a space to set up a call. Hover over it. There are about 8 or 9 different categories of phone calls. Choose one. Love to talk with you. Email me, intelligentmotivationinc.com. The email is bill@intelligentmotivationinc.com. More than happy to chat with anybody, and let's see what we can do to develop a solid life together.
Awesome. Sounds great. So my final question is, what does mental mastery mean to you?
Mental mastery, the synonym for that is self-discipline in my mind. And self-discipline is doing the things that you have to do so that you have the time to do the things that you want to do. That's mental mastery to me.